Rao, and this is a continuation of my Facebook Live from Friday last week. September, it was the last Friday of September, and I had some technical issues, and so I wasn't able to complete this communication I was going to do with Stephanie Harris, who has been a very big proponent of mindset shifts, and I wanted to bring her on because I have learned a lot about the role of not only mind body as a structural kind of an issue in terms of helping our body's inflammation. Remember, we all want to kind of lower inflammation in general and try to improve our parasympathetic by increasing our rest and digest. And what I've discovered over the last few years is that not only is our mind an issue, but our thoughts are an issue and our mindset is an issue. And so the last chapter of our book, In Body on Fire, we've added the optimism chapter, and I cannot think of one person that would be a better representation of optimism than Stephanie Harris. I met her probably 15, 17 years ago. I'm not sure. She saw me for a medical reason at my practice, only because her primary doctor was too busy. And so I kind of took over, and it was the most amazing time in terms of, meeting people on your path who have similar type of direction. She was very ill at the time, and scared. But, what I found very compelling about her is her mindset of optimism, that I am going to get through this. I am not going to let this bring me down. And this is, no matter how scared I am, whatever we're going to do as a team. And the thing is, I trust this person that's talking to me, and she did everything we asked her to, and she continues to do everything we talked to her about in terms of maintaining her health. And she recently helped her husband recover from coronavirus back in March, when we didn't know a whole lot about it. And she stayed incredibly calm. Both of them were incredibly calm, controlled their fear in a time where even I was afraid, talking to them about this, because we didn't know enough about the virus to know what would help, what wouldn't help. But you know what? They've sailed through it. She's become an international speaker for this. She's a marketing person. She's a positive psychology coach. And now she's a leader in the field of mindset. She's developed this company called Shift with Steph. And I want her to talk to everyone about it, because I would love to be able to have people use her resources to change this, because ultimately optimism can affect our health. And we really need to understand how powerful our thoughts are. So with that, I'm going to leave it to Stephanie. Please, Stephanie, tell us what you do.
Oh, well, thank you, Dr. Rao. That's quite an introduction. And just so everybody knows, I don't do everything you say, but I certainly try to do the most that I can, because I understand that you are a thought leader in your area as a functional medicine doctor, and functional medicine treats the whole person. And that is really what this is all about. And so, first of all, people are probably wondering, well, who is she? Why do I care? Well, first of all, I was fortunate enough to grow up the child of two scientists, my mom an RN, and my father, one of the first Black engineers hired at Boeing in 1951. And so I remember saying to him one day, Dad, how did you do this? He said, well, I always told you, you become what you think about. And I said, did you ever think you won't do this? Or people laughed at you. They said, why hire a Black guy who says he's an electrical engineer? And he told me it never crossed his mind to not do what he wanted, because it's all about what's here. So I grew up hearing that. Not really a great environment to make any excuses, because none were allowed. But I learned studying different aspects of mind body medicine as early as the age of 14, when I dabbled in yoga and also in Eastern philosophy and medicine. I learned back then that the teachers through the ages and the centuries, they understood that we're all one. And so at 28, before I decided to get pregnant, I went through an Ayurvedic process called Panchakarma. I didn't know much about Ayurveda, except I figured East Indian population and civilization was pretty smart. And I just figured I'll go for it. And so in that, I learned the purity of the body when creating a new spirit, and what it means to create an entire environment of healing so that you can bring a new soul into this world. Now, whether my daughter will agree that it was helpful, I certainly think that it was. And so all of these modalities, Ayurveda, functional medicine, acupuncture, I actually had an acupuncturist in labor with my second child. And so I learned that we really are all that we think about. And to beat ourselves up for a misstep in life doesn't help our immune system. It doesn't help us physically, it just makes us neurotic. And so right now, I am living a journey of having to step forward with how do I treat myself at the age of 60 so that the next 20, 30, 40 years, yeah, I intend to blow past 100. How can I live optimally in a healthy fashion and be balanced? And it starts up here. And my quest as a positive psychology coach was largely around helping people become resourceful, but it was also about understanding that the subconscious directs the conscious. It doesn't mean you just sit and meditate all day and your life is going to be wonderful, but it does really, in its root, it relies on you being able to put forth certain thought patterns that set you up for success. So as an example, one of my famous ones is, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. How am I going to get all this done? And so my coach said to me, why don't we create a narrative shift? You have all the time that you need. You just have to be really smart and intentional and balanced. If you need to take out 15 minutes and meditate, it would be great because that sets your alpha waves up for a calm and balanced approach. And that's what all of this is about. The calmness, the balance, the minimization of cortisol and all of the quote unquote boogeyman hormones that accelerate aging and accelerate stress. And as Dr. Rao has told me, that's why you need to do your yoga consistently to repair DHEA, to minimize cortisol, and more importantly, to put your body in a state where it can optimally heal. And that includes rest, and it also includes balanced exercise. So right now, as I speak to you in a couple of hours, I'm going to follow up with two guys who are brilliant in the areas of physiatry, physical medicine, and also in interventional medicine. I was born with two crooked kneecaps, and I had them both fixed in 2016. Now, the good news is I was able to blow past the recovery of what I think was about 3 years to ski again, which I did at 7 months, and ride my road bike and continue to hike and do all these wonderful things. The unintended consequence of all of this is that my scoliosis, which I now have renamed my sexy left to right curve, is giving me some issues. And so with Dr. Rao's help and Dr. Albert's help, I'm hoping to get on a regimen of injections that will help heal that. And so why do I tell you all this? Because it's not a perfect scenario. I'm not a person who has not had their share of biomechanical issues. And I did the exosomes with Dr. Rao's brother, Dr. Sadir, who's great. And then calming down my back pain and figuring out the best way to do all of this, I had to really get into a mindset of consistency and a mindset of how can I enact everything that I've learned, everything that I do, everything that I believe in, and create a real scenario where I can heal. And so right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing glutathione injections for my immune system, B12 shots, NAD. Dr. Rao has me on, after we get my urine test back, another regimen of some immune boosters and ketone esters, I believe is my next thing that I'm going to be on. And so we're doing all of this to analyze exactly where I am. Why do I feel this is so important? Well, in addition to the mindset piece, you have to have, for lack of a better word, a tool chest of what it takes for you individually to manage your stress and get through things. So I tell you all of this because I understand that mindset is an ever-evolving process. It's very involved. It is not minimalistic. It's self-unfolding. I happen to have the profile of a person who's a caregiver, and anybody who called me during this period of COVID has gotten the best, most honest answers that I can come up with because that's what I believe in. And they know that I went through it. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened, as Dr. Rao mentioned. So back in March, actually the end of February, I went to the National Brotherhood of Skiers, which is an African-American ski conference in Sun Valley, Idaho. And unfortunately, out of about 700 skiers, over 200 got sick. And last I heard, 7 passed away. Fortunately, Mark was not ill enough to be hospitalized, but he was very sick. He got a secondary pneumonia due to his immune system going into overdrive to fight COVID and his lungs being compromised, partially, I think, because it was just the perfect storm of altitude, being run down, just having everything kind of go crazy with COVID. And fortunately, in my insistence, he was able to get tested early. And why that's so important is because I was just like I am now, full of energy, nothing wrong with me, spreading the virus like wildfire because we didn't know. We didn't know what the asymptomatics were capable of doing. And we still don't know because there's so many who have never been tested. But we did understand very early that I was potentially a spreader. And in that, we were able to enact a protocol of safety where I carried myself just like he was as a person who could, although never tested until much later, could spread the virus. And so the mindset around possibly harming someone is very heavy. The mindset around healing your husband when there's very little known, except for Dr. Rao constantly being available for me to call and ask her about hot lemon water, giving him lavender baths, 10 servings of immune boosting organic fruits and vegetables every day, letting him sleep, which was very scary to watch a healthy athletic man sleeping 20 hours a day. Her being there for me was just incredible. But more importantly, me being there for myself in a calm, semi-calm way was key and pivotal to him healing. He just came in from a 20-mile bike ride. He averages 100 miles a week, and he's amazing. He is so committed to continuing to feel great, and he's done 3 convalescent plasma donations with the goal of helping people if, in fact, it can help them. And so I say all of that to bring forth that we as a team have, we hope, helped people understand the mindset around healing, and more importantly, you have to be all in. I couldn't have helped him if I didn't have a warrior spirit. I am not necessarily, I mean, I'm perky as you can tell, but I'm not necessarily perky in the morning. And so I would come in the morning and say, hey, sugar pop pop, how you doing today? And it was overkill, but it was so needed because he needed to see me not letting this bring my vibration down. Because if my vibration sunk, what am I giving him? Simply put, the caregiver's lip cannot be poked out. And so in the fact this is a stubborn virus and he was tested for about 3 months, I really had to think, okay, how do I help people when I'm still going through this? So I took all of my inquisitiveness, my experiences, and I started to pursue this positive psychology coaching certificate. And in that, I hammered out a program called Energy Follows Thought. And in Energy Follows Thought, I took all of the experiences that I've learned from thought leaders, coaches, doctors, spiritual advisors, which is probably 600 years given how long I've done this. And I put together a 12-week program that looks at your words. It looks at your thoughts. And it really starts with you understanding that you deserve to be healthy. You deserve a healthy attitude. I've had so many people, particularly in the African-American community, say to me, well, you know, everybody in my family's diabetic. Well, everybody in my immediate circle, they all have high blood pressure. Well, we all eat this way. We've always eaten this way. Well, number one, you're the sum total, they say, of the 5 closest people to you. So I don't hang out with a lot of people that are not eating like I eat. It just happens to work out that way. I don't judge them, but I know it's a lot easier to slip into a paradigm of I don't care when you are not being conscious of your surroundings. So it's very, very important for me to always envelop a perspective of what do I care about and how do I bring those people into my circle. Not to exclude anyone, but it's truly about understanding that energy follows thought. So if you're all sitting around doing shots, not to say yeah, I've never done that, but that creates one level of awareness and mindset. But if we all sit around and talk about a new vegan restaurant that we've discovered, or a new vegan carryout, I should say, more importantly, that we've discovered, or a home delivery service, sharing those positives around health and wellness, to me, creates an energy boost and therefore a vibrational boost. And why that's so important is because we are in a place right now with everything going on where our immune systems are under attack in ways that it just never, ever occurred. So number one, we're living through a pandemic. And that in and of itself is scary. I've done some of the mental health research around how this is affecting us and how it will affect us. And the graphs, which I try not to focus on too much, are pretty scary because they're creeping up. The longer this persists, the longer there's more of an unknown, we are becoming more anxious as a society. And so what the mental health experts are saying is that eventually this is going to be considered PTSD. And so I woke up one day and said, I got to get ahead of this. I've got to help people understand, not only do they become what they think about, but they deserve to be healthy. They deserve to understand the background and the epigenetics of why they have an unhealthy perspective relative to the perspective that they have adopted. So as an example, I talked to one lady who said, Stephanie, you have the luxury of eating organic. I said, no, actually I don't. I have the luxury of the mindset that tells me to go online and price out food and use coupons and figure out who has the cheapest, best options, and becoming part of a CSA, a community sourced agriculture program, figuring out ways to make it work. And I didn't judge her, but I said, you with those shoes on your feet equal half of my food budget for the year, because that's where she put her money, in shoes. I happen to put mine in health, because I believe there's never a dollar that you spend on your health and wellness that's a waste. That's just how I feel. And so it's all about shifting. I'm not saying that there aren't people who have economic struggles, but it's really about shifting your mindset, shifting your focus, shifting the fact that, yes, I understand fast food is available. It's readily available. It's not like I don't eat an occasional Impossible Burger from the place. But I understand that the benefit of eating whole, healthy, close to the ground, organic fruits and vegetables has to be what I lead with. It has to, because that's the source of healing. It's a source of intention around creating ageless and, hopefully, as I consider it, to be boundless future relative to my health. And oh, excuse me. Just moving forward, understanding that you're worth it. You're worth any change that you feel like you need to have. So how do we protect ourselves? How do we get ahead of this PTSD? Well, it's important to protect your immune system. Excuse me. Excuse me. It's important to protect your mindset. It's important to understand, hey, I believe in reversing aging. Dr. Rao, you've given me a lot of great information. You can do it. I believe in overcoming your thoughts from the perspective of, look, this morning, I had two options. Wake up with an attitude of gratitude, or wake up saying, my list. Oh, I chose gratitude. I chose prosperity. I'm living proof that you become what you think about. So I hope that you'll join me on my program. We can go into greater detail if you reach me at hello@shiftwithsteph.com, and I can show you a way, I think the best way, to approach life and become all you deserve to be and all you want to be from the inside out.
That's lovely.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Rao.
Stephanie. Thank you. I wanted to comment a couple of things on what you said and highlight what my journey in terms of what I learned about optimism. You know, I only fell into this positive psychology realm about 3 years ago. And I started looking at the research, and I started listening to pioneers like Sean Aker and Tal Bell, the Harvard professors that deal with, you know, have taught these courses, which, by the way, are available. Coursera has a course now called I think it's about the science of well-being. There's a lot out there on positive psychology. I think your course is extremely important, Stephanie, because optimism is not I used to think optimism was fixed. You were born with what you were born with. You're either a pessimist or you're an optimist, and that is not true. The research has proven that. You have the ability to change that, and that ratio is pretty high. It's like 40%
Right.
that can shift. And so that is really empowering to know, because I always thought I was a pessimist, and I've, over this journey of doing all the coursework and the meditation and the exercises and all of the things that I've learned, you know, I do believe that in the last 3 years I have completely shifted. And you know, it's a great way to go through life. And you know, life isn't easy, but if you are thinking that a struggle brings up the chance for you to improve yourself, the resilience factor goes up as an optimism, with an optimistic attitude. Your overall longevity of life goes up with optimism. Heart disease, depression, and a lot of the pain literature has shown that association between optimism and having better outcomes in health. And ultimately, you know, the science, the well-being aspect of Shakti is really what we strive for. We want optimal lives, which doesn't mean just the absence of illness, right? So illness, the World Health Organization talks about this. The absence of illness is not the goal. It's about mental, social, and spiritual well-being and physical health, but all of them come together. And in order for us to find life with meaning and a life fulfillment, I think we need to have this mindset change and have it part of us, especially during times where it's so hard sometimes with so much negativity coming at us. We really need all the help we can get. And I think that your course will be very helpful, but I can't say enough about how excited I am about, bringing this into Shakti and offering it to my patients, because it's so, so critical to
Well,
well-being.
thank you so much. And I think one of the most important things I want people to take away from this is none of this is blind optimism. I'm not going to tell you to go sit on a mountaintop and just meditate all your problems away. I'm going to ask you, though, what are you telling yourself? You have to do a very careful self-inventory of self-talk, because that self-talk drives who you become over time. So one of my doctors said, I know Botox fillers, all that stuff makes you think that you're young, but your bones are still old. And I said to him, but am I going to embrace that, or am I going to embrace yoga, water, sleep, rest, stretching, everything that I know that can reverse many of those things, in addition to all the wonderful things that Dr. Rao has me doing from a supplement perspective. But I don't discard aging, but I understand what aging is, and I understand what stress is, and I understand that depression is anger turned inward. I understand all of the energetic processes that create what we consider to be the negatives and those things that eventually harm us over time. And so my program really, really stops at every instance and has you look at, okay, what's causing this to happen? Why am I not feeling like I deserve to go to bed on time? Why am I feeling that binging on Netflix is helping me? Because there is a reason why we do everything. And so I've told many people during this period, we have three options. We can consume, we can complain, or we can create. And so, yes, it's difficult. I do not mean to minimize it, but we all have a choice. I'm walking proof.
We will put some of the information about your course on our resource page as well.
Great.
And how can people reach you, Stephanie?
Hello at shiftwithsteph.com.
Yeah.
And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at shiftwithsteph. And I'll be happy to respond to you and help you in any way.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today and sharing your journey as well as about your wonderful program.
Thank you.
Okay.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.